The courtroom was alive with tension as all eyes were riveted on the drama that was about to ensue. Rumors of splits in the Brown brood had been circulating for months, with speculations on the fan pages and murmurs in attendance circles that knew the reality TV family. However, nothing could have readied those who were fans or those in the Brown household itself, for that matter, for the drama that was in store that day. It started with whispers, cameras snapped, reporters mumbled, and Kody Brown, the patriarch of sister wives, remained calmly seated at the defense table with his youngest, more controversial wife, Robyn, by his side. Across from them, with a throat-clearing cough, a seasoned attorney with a reputation for ferocious courtroom antics inferred that these documents before them would prove a dark reality to which no one could possibly have been exposed. Forged signatures, altered documents, and courtroom maneuvering that risked rocking the already precarious foundations of the Brown family. As the judge called the court to order, there was an unsettling quietness in the room. It had the makings of reality TV show drama, but it was not. It was reality with dire consequences. The attorney began to lay out the evidence, which grew more astounding with each piece. Names that were purported to belong to family members such as Kody's other wives had discrepancies. Experts had determined that some peculiar scribbles had been copied. It had raised eyebrows as to whom that could have possibly been done. The gasps in the courtroom reverberated through each new discovery. There was one document that stood out, called a property transfer pact, which seemed to have led to undue gain by one party in the situation, namely Robyn. It seemed that everything was legitimate, but this was not the case, as was evident from the evidence, which portrayed this situation to have been carefully planned by manipulate function. Internet viewers and people catching clips of the news program couldn't believe what they watched. Years of perfected unity and togetherness among Kody and his four wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn of the Brown family, now appeared to hang in the balance, as the very unity they now projected now seemed shakily staged. But primarily, the spotlight was focused on the very woman who was typically in the midst of all the speculation and drama. Being the very powerful matriarch of the family, this was none other than Robyn. With every new point of evidence introduced by the attorney, the tension escalated. Emails appeared with strange dealings in relation to family wealth. Banking documents disclosed suspicious movements of funds. Every new detail unmasked another level of secrecy with a family dynamic that had been far more complex and tumultuous than the family drama on the reality TV program. The courtroom drama was no longer simply about the litigation of the law. Now it was a stage of deception, manipulation, and struggle for power. Kody's face was carefully controlled, although hints of anxiety crept through. His jaw clenched. His fingers tapped urgently on the table, and he glanced at Robyn. She was seated beside him, poised and calm, although those in the know claimed she was terrified. The truth lay not in the well-manicured facade being captured on camera, but in the much more convoluted mess each claim, each piece of paperwork, each witness testimony eroded the well-crafted facade that the Brown family had carefully constructed over the better part of the last 14 years. The judge paused to consider a particularly incriminating document, and the courtroom was filled with the buzz of murmured guesses. Was Kody trying to shield Robyn? Had she managed some things to her own end? Or was this all a bigger plan to undermine Kody's position in the family? These, of course, are all questions left unanswered but pregnant with suggestion. But outside of the courtroom, a media storm was brewing. Fans of the show took to all of the social media sites with hashtags such as #SisterWivesScandal, #KodyExposed, and #RobynRevealed. Social media forums were filled with people vigorously debating and analyzing all of the screenshots, documents, and statements made during the trial. Some supported Kody and claimed that all that happened was that he had good motives and that all of the charges against him had been exaggerated. The effect of the trial occurrences spilled over beyond the legal realm, as well as the social network world. According to insiders, family relations were stretched to the breaking point. The other wives, Mary, Janelle, as well as Christine, were said to be livid about the turn of events that involved not only Kody but Robyn as well. Many of the underlying family relations that had been masked before the cameras even existed began to come apart before their eyes as accusations rained back and forth. The children within the family were also impacted. Kody's adult children, who had previously stood by their father's decisions, began questioning the explanations they had been given for family business. The younger children, who were insulated from matters concerning the law and finances, were affected by the ripples of tension and confusion. The claims were no longer just hypothetical. They had now become reality. However, as time went by, more startling facts were brought out. Forensic specialists revealed how analysis was done for signatures, including differences that left no doubt about disparity. Defense attorneys pointed out observations concerning handwriting, pressure, and flow. With every passing instance, it became increasingly difficult to believe that accusations were a matter of conspiracy and accident. The courtroom was transfixed as a family's affairs from behind the scenes of a reality television show were laid bare. For the audience, this marked a turning point. Reality TV was known to create drama out of a fight. However, what transpired between the family members was reality TV at its most intense amid all the legal pressures. The drama between Kody and Robyn directly impacted the reputation of each, as well as the unity of the whole Brown family. The session ended, and in that courtroom, in that setting, a battlefield had been created. All of the evidence, every declaration, every expert opinion conflicted with what the Browns had communicated publicly. For Kody, this is a lesson in leadership and integrity. This is a purging experience in perception and truth. For Robyn, it is, for viewers, a revelation of shocking clarity as they realize that the family, as they knew it on television, is much more complicated and fragile than they could ever have conceived. The end of this first session finally came with a strike of the gavel. Although it was evident that tension was left hovering in the air, all eyes were on this family from this point on, from the public to the family itself, and the representatives of the media who were taking it all in with every twist and turn as secrets were reluctantly exposed. One thing was very clear: nothing would ever be quite the same again for Kody and his family. But as the courtroom drama played out, the ripple effect that was felt in the aftermath of the trials that took place in the courtroom was immediate and intense. Fans of the reality series Sister Wives have been fascinated by the Brown family's unique dynamic, a polygamous family that was deeply attempting to find a balance between the concepts of love, trust, and the lines of the law. But the allegations of falsified signatures and tampered with documents had an effect that went beyond the justice that was being served in the courtroom. It impacted the very heart of the family. There were reports that the private discussions between the wives had been getting more heated, revealing the cracks that had been simmering just beneath the surface for so long. Sources close to the family have claimed that arguments began to break out over everything from money to family decisions, as years of underlying tension boiled over. Mary, the oldest of Kody's wives, allegedly had been very frustrated with the impact that Robyn has been having, feeling as if her voice had been drowned out in family discussions. Janelle, the second wife, along with fourth wife Christine, have been caught between loyalty to Kody, as well as trying to wrap their minds around the accusations that have been leveled against him. Robyn was right at the midst of everything, as she was the youngest wife who had also been quite controversial over the years. There had been debate over her role in the family, with some people considering her to be quite cunning, as she was slowly building her influence on Kody's life. But on the other hand, she had been regarded as a loving wife who had been managing all these family members to keep the peace. This came when rumors about her role in forging signatures began to make their way out. Within the family circle itself, there was said to be a noticeable tension in the air. Sources reported that family meals, which in the past had symbolized a family that was together and striving for a common good, had become a battleground where resentment silently fermented. So also, meetings held ostensibly to settle disputes sometimes ended in shouting matches. Behind each conversation hung the specter of mistrust. Even casual statements could be pored over for hints of ulterior motives. This was a family that had long depicted itself on television as a model family. The children were not exempt from the fractures, according to sources. Some of Kody's children started to openly wonder what was going on with their father's choices. They wondered, were hurt, and could not tell who to believe. The younger children, while protected from the complexities of the laws, sensed that tension, having caught the whispers of anger, disappointment, or uncertainty with their parents' voices. The Brown family, which was always full of laughter and energetic tumult, seemed to have an undercurrent of tension. On the other hand, the family was made to suffer from the attention brought about by the media and the fans. Social media exploded with opinions analyzing every bit that had to do with the relationships within the family. Those in support of Kody and his fourth wife, Robyn, felt that the claims against them were exaggerated or had political motivations. They believed that the patriarch had always had the best interest of the family in mind. Others felt that the motivations for some of the actions that took place could not be trusted, that Robyn had set herself up to leverage to her advantage. Even family traditions that had once been a source of unity became an issue of contention. Issues that had once been resolved easily, holidays, property, and financial matters now were filled with tension and the struggle to ensure that there was not an unfair or biased decision being handed down. The unbreakable bonds that had been formed were being attacked and showing weaknesses that had been hidden behind the lens of sister wives. And then, to add more to all this, was Kody's leadership style, which was always portrayed as being very control-oriented, although very calculated. While Kody was able to maintain this control over the years, the issue of document forgery placed everything he did into question. Some thought that Kody may have been placing the needs of Robyn over those of the rest of the wives, thereby creating tensions and suspicions, although this was done either out of malice or poor judgment. Personal relationships outside of the courtroom also took a toll on the women. Behind closed doors, allegedly there were ranting matches, with placing the blame on past wrongs now resurfacing with the revelations of the trial. Mary handled the circumstance in her own way, withdrawn in her emotions and feelings of helplessness. This woman thinks of herself with hurt and strength in equal parts. Another wife, who took the initiative of playing the peacemaker, found herself grappling with the pressures of the tension and loyalties. This woman, Robyn, carried on with her composure intact, with a life of complexity in her mind, fearful of what might happen in the future. The fractures also extended into more pragmatic considerations: joint family financial management. A process that used to be handled as one big, blended family had now become a potential source of disputes. Issues pertaining to ownership of properties, inheritances, and so forth were being closely scrutinized, as some members worried about potential legal blunders that could impact their future. What once required a combined effort in dealing with a big, blended family now consisted of divergent interests, where every action came under suspicion. Onlookers also found themselves intrigued, shocked, and concerned for the family. Twitter, Facebook, and other related sites were filled with responses. People offered messages of concern, understanding, or outright criticism. Fans reflected on morality, loyalty, or polygamous family dynamics. There were some who believed the family troubles were merely a symptom of a larger problem, while others defended the family, claiming they were being condemned by public opinion when judged in the court of public opinion. Each comment seemed to add to the family's stressful situation, making it difficult for the family to address personal conflicts. The Brown family was subjected to even more strains by the presence of the cameras and the spotlight that was placed upon them at all times. Even the ordinary activities that they were indulged in were under surveillance, with the fans and viewers speculating over the behavioral cues and interactions that were occurring between the members of the celebrity family. The situation was one in which none of the members felt that they could ever truly relax. It was evident by the end of Session 2 that the effects of the revelations in the courtroom were already apparent. The Brown family was divided in ways that went well beyond any question of legal papers. The wounds of emotion had been reopened, and the bonds of fidelity and commitment had been put to the test by the suspicion and exposure attendant upon their family crisis. What began as a dispute about signatures and possessions had turned into a crisis of family proportions. Fans were given a very close look, albeit a chilling one, at what was really happening behind the cameras. The story wasn't just happening on television, it was happening in real life, and it would impact every single member of this family. Nothing could be counted on anymore. Trust, love, and loyalty were precarious pursuits that could be easily lost through trickery, misinterpretation, or miscommunication. As the family attempted to regroup, signs of these fractures remained apparent. Conversations at dinner stemmed from politeness, meetings were tense, while personal conversations contained an underlying dialogue that was full of questions and doubts. The very relationships that had made up the foundation of the sister wives saga were being besieged, not only from the courtroom but from years' worth of unresolved tension. From Session 2, one thing was certain: the Brown family internal dynamic had been irreparably disrupted. The ties once thought impossible to break were now pushed to the limit, as each member struggled with fear, mistrust, and divided allegiances. Viewers could only sit back and watch, entranced and appalled, as the story played out before them, uncertain at any moment which direction the next installment might take: towards mending, towards more conflict, or perhaps even radical change within the family dynamic. The Brown family saga, which included Kody, Robyn, and all other members of the family, was no longer simply part of the reality TV storyline. It had become a case study of what could go wrong when trust, power, and secrets are mixed together. Even for families who seemed to be as close as the Browns, but for viewers, it was simply a story that offered more drama each week. The already charged courtroom seemed to pulsate with anticipation as the unfolding sister wives scandal began its Session 3. What began as an issue over signatures and documents quickly escalated into a full-blown legal war with ramifications that could forever alter the Brown family's dynamics and public image. Every eye in the room watched with bated breath, while cameras captured every reaction to air a real-time storm to an audience that spanned the globe. The opposing attorney was a razor-sharp, relentless professional who did not waste any time elevating the stakes. Piles of additional evidence came forth: emails, bank statements, affidavits, and financial transfers, each carefully selected to paint an image of manipulation and deception. The tension was palpable for the Browns. Kody, usually measured and composed, now showed subtle signs of strain, his fingers twitching, his jaw tightened, a flicker of unease crossing his otherwise stoic face. Next to him, Robyn kept her calm exterior, but sources close to them indicated that her brain was racing, weighing every possible implication of the revelations. At the heart of the storm was a number of crucial documents, property transfers, financial agreements, and trust arrangements that allegedly favored Robyn most disproportionately. The opposing party's legal team maintained that these were forged or manipulated, questioning signatures, consent, and fairness every time another revelation was made. It seemed like an even more complex piece of the puzzle had been presented to both the judge and the audience. Handwriting experts took to the witness stand and provided highly detailed analyses of the disputed signatures. They pointed out slight differences in pressure, stroke direction, and letter formation that showed certain signatures likely did not come from the individuals they were supposed to represent. The courtroom silently withstood the shock of realizing what might have seemed like minor irregularities could, in fact, signify a calculated attempt to manipulate legal outcomes. The stakes couldn't have been higher. The documents in question weren't mere legal formalities but signified control over property, finances, and even the structure of the Brown family. Proven true, the allegations might have disastrous repercussions. Long-held assets might change hands, trusting relationships may be irreparably breached, and a family order that has been very laboriously upheld for decades may come tumbling down. Kody's legal team rebutted the charge by claiming all the documents were valid, and any discrepancies could be due to clerical errors or misinterpretation. They gave a picture of a family trying to navigate through structures that were very complex in nature and asserted that, at all times, Kody meant well for the protection of the interests of his wives. Robyn's lawyers supplemented that she too acted with good faith and in reliance upon the legal representatives, implying any irregularity was not done deliberately, but rather as an oversight, error in procedure than substance. The opposing counsel would not let up. They brought out one of the most explosive pieces of evidence, a property transfer document that suggested Robyn had taken control over assets in a manner inconsistent with the previous agreements on record. Under questioning, forensic analysts testified that the signature on the document did not match Kody's or any other relevant family member's known handwriting. Murmurs went around the courtroom. The implication was clear: someone might have manipulated the system at hand for personal benefit. The dramatics that went on in the court were really hyped by the media. From Kody's subtle actions to Robyn's composed face, every moment was analyzed through news outlets and social media. The fans debated the family's motives and theories of loyalty, ambitions, and even betrayal. Was Kody trying to protect Robyn, or was she the mastermind behind some of the moves? Could the other wives have been aware, or was this all news to them too? The court of public opinion was in full motion, with many layers of pressure and complexities being added onto an already volatile situation. As the session went on, some more documents began to surface with what looked like irregularities in family trusts and financial distributions. Lawyers pointed out discrepancies between dates of signatures and the timing of asset transfers that seemed to suggest some acts were done premeditatedly or to mislead. Every new piece of evidence really chipped away at the believability of the family's public story and forced viewers and insiders to wonder about a home life so reportedly harmonious the Browns on television. Behind the scenes, sources close to the family revealed that private interactions were becoming increasingly tense. The arguments would erupt over strategy and accountability, with Mary, Janelle, and Christine said to feel frustrated at not being privy to important decisions. Accusations of favoritism, secrecy, and manipulation surfaced, tamping up tensions and deepening the divide. Meanwhile, Robyn remained tight-lipped, even-keeled, public posturing offset by a low-grade private anxiety of the building legal and family pressures. The children, too, were suffering from the storm. Some adult children began to wonder if their father had lost his mind, while the younger ones caught a whiff of tension and uncertainty around them. The Browns' household, once a hub of orchestrated togetherness, now was heavy with palpable weight, caused by stress, fear, and uncertainty from what had emerged as a tussle over documents. Their crisis of faith and family bonding reached a whole new level. To Sister Wives enthusiasts, the court battle that unfolded was unlike any other production they had watched. Social media was full of hashtag Sister Wives Court, hashtag KODY Scandal, and hashtag Robyn Exposed, amongst others, where viewers debated morality versus family loyalty and where legality sat with the weighing scale. Some did defend Kody, pointing out that he had always acted in the best interest of the family and these allegations were blown way out of proportion. Others lynched him and Robyn, stating that the evidence proved deliberate manipulation and deceit. Every leaked document, every courtroom clip, and every expert testimony was used as fodder in the online debate, which mounted up the already increasing heat from public pressure and scrutiny. One of the most dramatic moments of the session came when the usually quick-witted judge stopped to consider critical evidence. The room fell silent. The tension was so thick it could almost be felt physically. Cameras captured the telling reactions of Kody and Robyn. Flickers of fear, frustration, and uncertainty crossed their faces. Observers noted the sharp contrast between Robyn's outward calm and the storm raging in the courtroom, suggesting a complex mix of calculation, anxiety, and resilience. By the end of the session, there was no denying the implications of the legal storm. For so long touted as a model of polygamous unity, the Brown family was now being scrutinized for its actions, which no longer aligned with public perception. Accusations of forgery, manipulation, and favoritism were far more than a question of legality but were questions of character, loyalty, and integrity. Kody and Robyn, once the center of fascination for the dynamics that fans adored, were met with scrutiny that would forever redefine their statuses within the family. This session also tried to note that legal procedures are complexly intertwined with public opinion. The Browns, whose lives had been broadcast for years, knew every word, every gesture, and every reaction was subject to be picked apart by millions. A challenging atmosphere all through for trying to keep their cool. In a sea of accusations of forgery and manipulation, the line between personal crisis and public spectacle became very blurred. The legal storm brought internal and external conflicts in the family to an all-time high. Relationships seemed to have been set in stone but were being stretched to a breaking point. Trust was eroded, loyalty questioned. Long-established alliances between wives buckled and flexed under the pressure, while children grappled with how to balance love for their parents against the heinous accusations now making headlines. To the audience, it was melodrama-worthy, an unprecedented glimpse behind that very carefully crafted veil of so-called reality television, at the fragile human beings hiding behind on-screen personas. As the courtroom adjourned, both the media and public were in a frenzy to see what further exposures would take place. Session 3 had set the stage. No one in the Brown family was beyond scrutiny, and every action could have legal, financial, and emotional consequences. The stage was set for further conflict, deeper investigation, and the potential for irreparable damage to both family unity and public image. The intensity of the legal storm had already left its mark for Kody, Robyn, and the rest of the Brown family. The challenge was no longer one involving just documents and signatures, as it had metastasized into the more damaging reputational, trust, and relationship survival tests under the most extreme of pressures. Every decision taken in the courts sprouted ripples back home, and every action outside the courts was now harnessed under a magnifying glass. Meanwhile, unrolling within the legal system concerning Kody Brown and Robyn Brown, this story did not remain within the boundaries of the legal system but erupted on social media, turning a family secret into a viral sensation. Social media users flocked to respond, speculate, and analyze every aspect of the story as it was happening. The rumors of forgery and altered documents were a recipe for a frenzy, and the outpouring was swift and unrelenting. Soon enough, the hashtags started pouring in. Hashtag Sister Wives Scandal, Kody Exposed, Robyn Revealed, and Family Shattered. Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook sites were inundated with thousands of entries pouring over each minute detail. The reactions in the courtroom to the reactions of Kody Brown and his new wife Robyn, threw significant glances that suggested so much in the 2-minute news clips aired on TV. This show has garnered so much reaction on the internet. A president of a marketing research company commented, "The reaction has been enormous." YouTubers who commentated on the reality TV series also shared their opinions, as those influencers have a specific channel for reality TV series. 2. According to many, Kody Brown has always been treating Robyn favorably. using manipulation so that the family dynamics favor Robyn. Others believed that the accusations between Kody and Robyn are not as serious as the media has portrayed them, that the family drama has been blown out of proportion, taking a small detail into a gigantic issue. Memes and viral videos spread quickly, infusing a sense of humor, sarcasm, and outrage. In one popular video, a comparison was made between Robyn's calmness and Kody's discomfort, creating a series of jokes about how the calm always wins. Because of the tension present in the family, another popular meme was that of the reactions from the rest of the wives, drawing speculations about what must be happening behind closed doors, as far as conversations and arguments are concerned. Amidst all this, the message was quite profound that a new dynamic has altered the family image. Insiders have claimed that everyone involved was well aware of this reaction, as quoted. Private family dynamics seem to be affected more with each passing day by how the situation was being received publicly. Mary, Janelle, and Christine were frustrated not only by what was being alleged to have happened between Kody and Robyn, but they were frustrated by how they believed the world was being introduced to what was going on in their personal lives. They felt that every post, every tweet, every article was an invasion into what was, to them, family business that was being handled internally. The social networking fervor also impacted the notion of trust and loyalty. Fans questioned whose side to trust, trying to decipher the motives behind every signature, document, and move. Was Robyn playing Kody for her own gain? Or was she victimized in a lawsuit that was out of her control? Was Kody being proactive to safeguard his own interests? Or was he irresponsible in his treatment of his other wives? These questions were not merely abstract notions, they fueled public perception, fueled viral publicity, and placed pressure on the family to address the situation, to take a side. The younger generation was also caught in the aftermath of the social media frenzy. The older children understood the rumors and turmoil being raised in the social networks, and experienced conflicted emotions of loving their parents and being confused over the legal accusations while being caught in the limelight. On the other hand, the younger generation was away from the legal aspects but was able to catch the tension in the family and family relations, reflecting the stress arising from a social media frenzy in their homes too. All this turned out to be a reality for the Browns, because their social media frenzy was not mere entertainment in their case, rather, it was a mirror reflecting the real and immediate implications of internal family breakdowns in the family's own home. The viral element of the scandal brought in audience members who did not know the reality TV story of the Browns from previous seasons. Beyond the reality TV audience itself, mainstream media began picking up the story as they broke down legal filings and the public's response. Legal experts, sociologists, and lifestyle reporters examined the scenarios of forged signatures, disputes over property rights, and family dynamics. The Browns found themselves a case study in how the public reacts to a family in a situation such as this. The fans' response mainly consisted of polarized views. There were those who supported Kody Brown and Robyn, claiming that the sensationalized reporting in the media had been blown out of proportion, where apparently insignificant issues were magnified merely for sensations and views. They pointed out that the Browns had been dealing with rather complicated legal issues for quite some years now, where random guesses by nondescript people disregarded the context, intent, and technicalities of legal issues. However, polarized sections in online polls, chat discussions, and debates further accentuated the polarized view. Social media engagement also impacted reality TV show content production. YouTube channels, blogging websites, and fan pages latched onto analytical dissections, what happened behind the scenes videos, and conspiracy theories. Every leaked file and court response was picked apart and reframed to serve different ends. For fans, this was more than observatory journalism. They were participants, not just fans. And analysts, researchers, and commentators all at once. Family interactions are said to have been similarly dynamic within the Browns family. Private family meetings were no longer straightforward, as each family member was very much aware of the impact public opinion might have on family relations, as well as their rights under the law. Robyn has been said to be a pragmatist who was considering both public opinion and her legal stance, but with his patriarch role being called into question by lawyers and wives and children, who were increasingly skeptical of his actions, Kody's position would be precarious at best. Mary, Janelle, and Christine would find themselves wrestling with elements of anger and hurt and calculation, as each struggled to reconcile their own interests with the demands of public life. Lawyers began weighing in on online forums about the case, too. Some Tom speculated that proof of forgery could have a dramatic effect on matters of property, trusts, and family control. Others suggested that the claims could falter when scrutinized. As supporters continued to rally around Judge Judy, additional information about the case added to the drama. It not only included matters of the law but family relationships, too, in a fashion that fans found fascinating and confusing. However, with the passing days, the frenzy on social media platforms refused to die down. Videos of the court proceedings were going viral every now and then. Memes and reaction videos were circulating nonstop, and discussions were becoming more and more elaborate. The situation had reached the point where the media event was now nothing short of a cultural phenomenon, with the perfect mix of reality TV stardom, familial drama, and legal disputes. Despite all this, it was noted that public interest had some impact on the decision-making process for the Browns. Since millions of people had access to what was happening in their lives, it is reported that family members changed their approaches, both legally and personally. Decisions on property, finances, as well as interactions, were not only made privately but also with public interests taken into consideration. Social media had become a living reality for a family that for years had lived before the cameras of televisions nationwide. For those watching Sister Wives, Session 4 marked a turning point. The drama began in a courtroom but now engulfed the entire internet. The internet reflected the family drama but also magnified it. Events created debates, ensuring that all things related to the Browns would not remain private for long. Indeed, all reactions, posts, and comments served to make those watching a key part of a story previously constructed by reality TV producers. By the end of Session 4, there was certainly one thing that was true: the Browns were now a lot more than just a television family. They had become a living, breathing case study of trust, of loyalty, of the power of secrets, and of the effects that take place in the grip of a very alert and watchful public. The power of social media had turned the scandal into a social phenomenon that was now sure to continue to grow, to expand, and to entertain the whole world. Every move that the Browns now made was of even greater import, as the cyber watcher waited and watched and speculated on the possibility of the outcome. Session 4 ended with the acknowledgement that the power of public opinion, narrative storytelling on social media platforms, and fan engagement were as potent as that of the courtroom itself. The Brown family was living in a world where every step, every response, and every engagement could have far-reaching repercussions, both in terms of legal outcomes and personal repercussions. This was no longer a narrative that was limited by the four corners of any legal document. It was living, breathing, and pulsating in cyberspace. The social media tempest, added to the courtroom drama and the family relations, created a scenario that foreshadowed what many anticipated to be an even more dramatic follow-up tale. The fans were enthralled, the discussions were endless, and the Browns were living their lives under the spotlight, which they had never been accustomed to before. But for Kody Robyn and the family, the question that lingered not only Perda. The storm had passed in the courtroom, but the storm it brought on was far from over. To Kody and Robyn and the rest of the Brown family, everything changed: the trust, a big reason and delicate balance of the family, has become fractured, as the family's relationships came under strain, encapsulated by allegations, public scrutiny, and personal grievances. The aftermath of the scandal promised to reshape not only the family's private lives but also their public image and reality TV legacy. Insiders immediately described the tight-lipped and silent household. In the wake of the courtroom drama, family members avoided each other, as conversations that once revolved around shared experiences now centered on logistics and damage control. The three other wives, Mary, Janelle, and Christine, were frustrated and let down because decisions had been made without them knowing or understanding what was going on. Robyn, the wife at the middle of the controversy, chose words, gestures, and every decision with extreme care, since public perception may very well change both her status within the family and that before the law. The family's children did not escape unscathed either. The adult ones felt bewildered and let down, with some even questioning their father's judgment and the equity of past family arrangements quite openly. The younger children mostly remained in the dark regarding the legal issues but could feel the tension within the house. The emotional drain, fights, and burden of press coverage all thickened into an environment that contrasted sharply with the Brown family image presented to the public. Suspicion and uncertainty dominated where cooperation and unity had been. Key familial watchwords. Financial and legal worries broadened the cracks. There were stories of family assets being reviewed, property agreements, and trust distribution in the context of forged signature allegations. The effect that there had been a questioning of assumed realities: who controlled what, who was entitled to what, created additional tension that faced the family. With tough questions on fairness, transparency, and accountability, the legal storm had not only exposed vulnerabilities but had also opened the floodgates to possible disputes that may drag on for years. Beyond finances, however, lay the emotional toll. Years of collective agreement, compromise, and diplomatic conversation among the wives had been undone. Private conversations previously held to sort out small issues were tainted with suspicion and questions. Repeated accusations of favoritism, manipulation, and secrecy created layers that made it more difficult to reconcile. For a family whose television image was based on cooperation and support, the contrast between public perception and private reality was jarring and uncomfortable. The media continued to amplify the story. Social media was abuzz with speculation, debates, and commentary. Hashtags like #SisterWivesScandal, #KODYExposed, and #Robyn revealed trended as fans analyzed every detail, fashioning tales that, at times, contradicted reality. Each public posting, interview, or social media appearance by members was scrutinized and almost always played to strengthen tensions within the house. The Browns had become some sort of real-life cautionary tale about the intersection of family, fame, and the relentless gaze of the public eye. The tangible effect of public opinion was magnified through media coverage and online discourse. According to sources, family members watched what they said to one another, not only to protect relationships but also to avoid creating any content or moments that might be taken out of context online. Decisions over who spoke to the media, how finances were handled, and how the family's daily lives were conducted hinged on possible public reaction. Social media had become the courtroom, a space where perceptions of guilt, innocence, and morality could shift quickly. Internally, alliances and loyalties were being tested. Some of the other wives reportedly considered legal counsel to protect their interests, feeling that past agreements or understandings had been compromised. Conversations about family priorities and decision-making processes became increasingly formal and structured, a stark contrast to the informal, cooperative dynamic previously portrayed on television. Even Kody, as the head of the family, needed to follow a difficult balance between demonstrating authority while commanding confidence in himself amidst the scrutiny he faced. The aftermath brought introspection as well. Some family members reportedly looked inward at years of buried tension masked by public appearances. Issues that earlier had appeared inconsequential, differences in opinion, disagreements on priorities, and past resentments now loomed larger under the lens of scandal. What had once been a balance of personalities and responsibilities so well carved out now needed reevaluation, compromise, and perhaps reshaping of the family structure. Of course, the fallout was most convoluted for Robyn, a centerpiece in the allegations. She struggled through legal and interpersonal issues. Holding it together in public, while privately remaining uncertain, became a daily balancing act. Some insiders close to the drama whispered that she had moved through the legal battles with strategic consciousness, while others merely guessed at the personal cost of being constantly scrutinized by both the media and her sister wives. Her position within the family, once secure, now came under new scrutiny that would demand diplomatic navigation. The other wives had personal issues as well. Mary, Chanel, and Christine needed to balance their loyalty to Kody with concerns about fairness and trust in regard to their position in the family. Fights and private discussions allegedly revolved around comprehension of the sequence of events, assessment of the past agreements, and preparation of the next steps as a means of self-protection. The emotional burden, pressed by public attention, called for resilience, patience, and strategic thinking. Hence, the complexity of family relationships and personal well-being management in the shadow of scrutiny was underlined. The fallout trickled well outside the realm of family dynamics and into the public consciousness. Fans still argued, commented, and theorized about the situation. Opinions were often very split. Some saw Kody and Robyn as victims of misunderstanding or hyperbolization, while others saw them as manipulative and deceitful. Where this reality TV family was once known for their unity and mutual agreement, scandal, legal fights, and broken relationships now defined it. Every move they made would be scrutinized, and the court of public opinion remained as influential as any legal ruling. Yet in the midst of tension, some moments of reflection and a likely reconciliation began to arise. Sources indicated that family discussions, while cautious, began to focus on the repair of relationships, the rebuilding of trust, and the resolution of key issues thrown up both by the legal and social media storms. The process was slow and Not without difficulty, yet reportedly the Browns realized that these fractures, if ignored, could have long-term personal and public consequences. As always, the children were at the core of the concern, protecting them from the full intensity of the scandal, while at the same time developing an awareness of family dynamics was of utmost priority. Older children reportedly were talked to with regard to accountability, fairness, and responsibility, while younger children were sheltered from legal complexities but exposed to emotional tension. Parental challenges during public scandals added another level to the post-drama consequence. Instead, the Brown family found themselves having to navigate a new reality that was financially, legally, and emotionally different. Property arrangements, trusts, and family agreements would be looked at anew, while the lessons learned from the courtroom battles themselves set a course of decisions. For years to come, the personal relationships inside of the home had changed, alliances were tested, and the public eye continued to be relentless. To onlookers and viewers alike, the fallout was just as if not more intense as the proceedings on the courthouse floor, because it spoke to the personal cost of family feuds. Under the magnifying glass of celebrity, by the end of Session 5, one thing was sure: the Brown family would never be the same. Trust had been tested, relationships strained, and public perception forever altered. The ramifications from both the legal and social media tempests put them in a place where every decision counted, every interaction carried weight, and the path forward required navigating the personal and public realities with great care. Of course, for Kody Robyn and the rest of the wives, the aftermath was fraught with challenge, reflection, and adaptation. The scandal had brought the vulnerabilities and exposed long-buried tensions and tested loyalties, yet it had also provided an opportunity for growth, reassessment, and perhaps eventual reconciliation. Fans, on the other hand, remained unfazed and reinvested in every twist, turn, and development as the Browns continued to navigate the storm that fundamentally reshaped their family and their legacy. On reality television, everything from the courtroom revelations to fractured relationships and social media frenzy, the story of sister wives had become a cautionary tale about trust, loyalty, and the consequences of secrets in a world where privacy and public perception go hand in hand. The Browns had made it through one of the most tumultuous times in their family's history, but the road ahead was uncertain, full of challenges, decisions, and revelations that would continue to captivate audiences and reshape their legacy for years to come.